गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवारधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुनतीरावनचारे यमुनतीरावनचारे जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवारधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुनतीरावनचारे जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रेरजगाचार्य स्तोत्र सदा श्रीमद अभय चरणरविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय इस्कॉन बीबीटी फाउंडर्स प्रभुपाद की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद भागवतम की जय गौरव प्रमणदे all glories to the assembled devotees all glories to the assembled devotees all glories to the assembled devotees all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam तदो जयमुदिरये नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतिरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवतिर्नैष्ठिः Welcome to everybody to today's Bhagavatam class of ISKCON South Bangalore. Today we will be reading and discussing from the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter number 29, Sloka Sankhya, verse number 56. Correct, Prabhu? 4:29:56. Rajo Vacha Surdam Anvikshidam Brahman Bhagavanit Abhasada Naidajjanandi Ubhatyayah Kimna Bruyur Buduryadi Surdam Anviksham Brahman Bhagavanit Abhasada Naidajjanandi Ubhatyayah Kimna Bruyur Buduryadi. Two Prabhus and two Madajis. Rajo Vacha Srudamanvikshidam Brahman Bhagavanat Abhashada Naitadjanandi Ubhatyayah Kimna Bruhyur Viduryadi. Rajo Vacha श्रुतमन्वीक्षितं ब्रह्मन् भगवानतभाषद नैतज्जानन्ति उपाध्यायः Mataji's Rajo Uvacha. The king said, Srudam was heard, Anvikshidam was considered, Brahman, O Brahmana, Bhagavan, the most powerful, Yet, which Abhashada you have spoken, Na, not, Yedat, this, Janandi, do know, Ubhatyayaha, the teachers of fruitive activities, Kim, why, Na Bruyuhu, they did not instruct, with who they understood, Yadi, if. Translation purported by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of ISKCON. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. The king replied, My dear Brahmana, whatever you have said, I have heard with great attention and, considering all of it, have come to the conclusion that the Acharyas, teachers who engaged me in fruitive activity, did not know this confidential knowledge. If they were aware of that, why did they not explain it to me? Purport. Actually, the so called teachers or leaders of material society do not really know the goal of life. They are described in Bhagavad Gita as Mayaya Abhridanyanaha. They appear to be very learned scholars, but actually, the influence of the illusory energy has taken away their knowledge. Real knowledge means searching of Krishna, searching out Krishna. Vedaicha sarver ahamyeva vedyaha. All Vedic knowledge is meant for searching Krishna because Krishna is the origin of everything. Janmadi Ashayataha. In Bhagavad Gita, also Krishna says, Ahamadirhi Devanam, I am the source of all the demigods. Thus, Krishna is the origin and beginning of all demigods, including Brahma, Lord Shiva, and all others. The Vedic ritualistic ceremonies are concerned with satisfying different demigods, but unless one is very advanced, he cannot understand that original personality is Sri Krishna. Govindam Adipurusham Damaham Bhajami. After hearing the instructions of Narada, King Bargishman came to his senses. The real goal of life is to attain devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The king therefore decided to reject the so called priestly orders that simply engage their followers in the ritualistic ceremonies without giving effective instructions about the goal of life. At world are not attracting people because foolish priests cannot elevate their followers to the platform of knowledge. Not being aware of their real goal of life, they simply keep their congregation in ignorance. Consequently, those who are well educated have become uninterested in the ritualistic ceremonies. At the same time, they are not benefited with real knowledge also. This Krishna conscious movement is therefore very important for the enlightenment of all the classes of people. Following the footsteps of Maharaj Bargisman, everyone should take advantage of this Krishna conscious movement and abandon or give up the stereotyped ritualistic ceremonies that go under the garb of so many religions. The Goswamis from the very beginning differed from the priestly class that was engaged in ritualistic ceremonies. Indeed, Sri Sanatana Goswami compiled Sri Haribhakti Vilasa for the guidance of the Vaishnavas. The Vaishnavas, not caring for the lifeless activities of the priestly class or Smartha class, they take to the full Krishna consciousness and become perfect in this very life. This is described in the previous verse as Paramahamsa Saranam, taking shelter of the Paramahamsa, the liberated soul, and becoming successful in this life. Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Saksuramridam Yena Dasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Budale Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nidinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyabadi Bhashatya Desadarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, from the beginning, the topics of this particular uh, Bhagavatam is that this section of Bhagavatam is dynasties of Manu, Swayambhuva Manu. So in that connection, in the beginning, in the first section of this fourth canto, we saw the narrations about Dhruva Maharaj episode. So what Dhruva Maharaj did, what kind of tapasya was done by himself. Finally, how the Lord gave darshan upon himself, how he benedicted himself. Then the later pastimes of Dhruva also got described in that particular section of fourth canto. Later on, in that connection, we studied the pastimes of Pridhu Maharaj. Then later on, in that connection, when we had been discussing about the family members of Pridhu dynasty, here in this particular section of Bhagavatam, fourth canto, now we study about the episode of King Prachini Pargisit. So King Prachini Pargisat, or Bargisman, Prabhupada writes here, he appeared in the family dynasty of Dhruva Maharaj, the great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But instead of becoming a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord, he had developed taste in the Karmakanda activities of the Vedic literature. He was more interested in the performance of Vedic sacrifices. In fact, he had been trained by his Kulagurus or family gurus in that line. He had also natural taste for that, and his Gula Gurus, they also trained him in that particular line. So Nardamani became so much compassionate upon himself. Simultaneously, here we see very beautiful description. He has a group of sons known as Prechadas also. So they went for executing austerities in the under portion of in the lower portion of the ocean. Generally, people go to forest for executing austerities because for doing tapasya, one need a quiet, calm, peaceful place. So they selected Arabian Ocean for the execution of their austerities. They went to the lower portion of the ocean and they started executing austerities. Fortunately, they got the darshan of Lord Shiva also. That particular place is known as Guruvayur, now in South India. That's a place where Prechadas got the darshan of Lord Shiva. In Guruvayur, if you go to Guruvayur, you can, in the nearabouts of Guruvayur, in the outskirts of Guruvayur, you can see a Shiva temple in a place known as Mamiyu. Okay, that is the place. So they got the darshan of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, surely, he instructed them in the knowledge of Krishna Bhakti, and they become all unalloyed devotees of Krishna. So two things were going on simultaneously in the same time. Prechadas had been executing austerities, doing tapasya in the bottom portion of the Arabian Ocean. Here, King Bargisman, Prakshini Parikshit is so busy in the execution of so many Vedic sacrifices. So we are living in the age of Kali. So we have the existence of some group of Brahmanas still in India, but surely we don't have the population of Brahmanas in greater number actually. Here we can see that Bargisman had enough resources for the execution of different sacrifices. So practically speaking, He went on performance of numberless sacrifices. It is said that he will perform one greater sacrifice in one place. When it comes to an end, immediately he will begin another sacrifice in another part of this particular universe. So he had that kind of enough resources for the performance of sacrifices. In fact, the surface of the whole world was got filled up with Dhruva grass because wherever he went, he was just performing so many different sacrifices. Narada Muni, he is he is a great devotee of the Lord. We know he is a pure devotee of the Lord. So naturally, the pure devotees are always decorated with many characteristics, lakshanas. So he is a Trihala Jnani. It means he knows about all the details about this material universe. What's going on here, what's going on there, what's going on in Sarkoloka, what's going on in Padalaloka. Everything is well known by himself by the mercy of Krishna. So he understood this king is doing this kind of activities, but he becomes so much compassionate upon himself. A member of great devotee known as Dhruva is entangled in the activities of Karmakanda. He didn't like that particular idea. He wanted to make him also devotee. That is the reason he arrived in the scene here. He arrived in the palace of King Bargisman, and gradually he started giving instructions upon himself in the line of devotion by the method of Obamana, known as allegorical stories. It's very beautiful to learn many things from the preaching activities of Narada Muni. He converted many devotees. He brought many people to the line of Krishna consciousness, Krishna Bhakti. But he adopted different techniques for the conversion of different personalities to the line of Bhakti. Correct? So here he is a king. He is so busy in the performance of Vedic sacrifices. So by telling stories and Obamanas, analytical stories, comparative stories, allegorical stories, gradually he made him to understand the ultimate aim of human form of life is not performance of sacrifice, but performance of unalloyed devotion to the lotus feet of Krishna. So that is the subject matter of this particular section of Bhagavatam. So in the last 2-3 chapters, a very long description we all may be hearing for long duration of time. So he was explaining in so many ways about the importance of the path of pure devotional service. Now in this particular sloka, King Bargisman has got realization and he expresses his realization. Yes, now I am able to understand the process of bhakti is the ultimate goal of human form of life, not the techniques instructed by my Gula Gurus known as the process of performance of Vedic sacrifices. Now that is the subject matter of this particular sloka. Sastra Yonitvat, the Supreme Lord is known as Sastra Yonitvat, one who can be understood only by the via medium of Sastra or scriptures. So we have Sastras. So in Vedic culture, it is the primary duty of the Brahmanas to study scriptures. And Sadriyas also studied scriptures. Not only Brahmanas. Sadriyas also went to Gurukul, they also studied scriptures. Even some qualified Vaishyas, they also got Upanayana. They also studied scriptures. Upanayana. What do you mean by Upanayana? Upaha means nearby. Nayadi means bringing in Sanskrit. So this teaching of Veda, the study of Vedic literatures, bring a jiva nearer to Krishna, nearer to God, nearer to the understanding of Krishna, nearer to understanding Bhagavat Tattva, Jiva Tattva, etc. It should bring the jivas to that particular stage. But at the same time, Vedas are like oceans. Practically, they have different sections of knowledge. Correct? Prabhupada says everything comes from Vedas only in his purport to the book Isho Upanishad. That's a famous lecture given by Srila Prabhupada in a famous hall in London. So Prabhupada says Veda means knowledge. Even the so-called modern scientific knowledge has its own origin only from Vedic literatures only. So Vedas have different sections. So one of the important section of Vedas are karmakanda activities, performance of fruitive activities, or performance of Vedic sacrifices. Okay, sacrifices are recommended in the Vedas. It's a not wrong thing on the part of a king to perform sacrifices. But when you speak about sacrifices, many aspects have to be taken into consideration. These ideas are explained in detail again in the third kind of Srimad Bhagavatam. In a topic, in a section, or uh, in a chapter known as Prabhupada writes that the meaning of Purusa Sukta got explained. If you study that particular chapter, you can study in greater detail about the thesis of sacrifice. So when you speak about sacrifice, one should understand about the techniques of performance of sacrifice. Correct? We have 4 kinds of brahmanas for the performance of sacrifice. Then how the mantras should be recited. What is the qualifications of the brahmanas for the performance of sacrifice? Then at the same time, who is the ultimate yajaman or performer of sacrifice? What is the meaning of the word yajaman? He is the ultimate in charge or performer of the sacrifice. He should be a sadriya and he should sit along with his wife in the performance of sacrifice. A brahmachari cannot be the yajaman of sacrifice. Nowadays, in our Indian languages, especially in South Indian languages, the word yajaman means boss. Correct? Boss in our factory, boss in our computer factory, boss in our cycle factory, or our supervisor is known as yajaman. But on the other hand, Yajaman means the leader of Yangjaha or sacrifice. He is known as Yajaman. So here the king plays the role of the performance of sacrifice. At the same time, one should try to understand the underlying principles of sacrifice also. The external activities, why we say this is a ritualistic activities? When the Smartas, when they perform sacrifice, they perform without sufficient understanding of the basic philosophy of sacrifice. What do you mean by the word Smarta? Basically, he is a strict follower of the Smriti regulation. He follows the Smriti regulations very strictly. Surely, Prabhupada, in many places he writes, a Grahastha is supposed to perform 5 kinds of sacrifices, at least minimum. In Kali Yuga, we cannot do anything, but at least theoretically one should understand. Of course, something is going on, still in the sacred land of South India, at least. So here the king his main duty is to perform sacrifice, but he should try to understand the logic of sacrifice, the philosophy of sacrifice also. What do you mean by sacrifice? Why it is done ultimately? For what purpose it is done ultimately? So these ideas are explained by Bhagavan Krishna himself in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Correct? We studied Yangja circle. Correct? The cycle of sacrifice we studied. It is a duty of the king to perform sacrifice, but for whose happiness he has to do sacrifice? Yangyogi Vishnuhu. For the happiness of Vishnu, one has to do sacrifice. That thesis one should understand. Otherwise, that's a problem in the case of Sumartha Brahmanas. They perform different sacrifices. They perform either for the happiness of demigods or without any purpose at all. So here, King Prachini Pargisit was not properly trained in Vaishnava principles. He just goes on performing different sacrifices for the happiness of different demigods. So that is known as Karmakanda activities. Every day in the morning, when we recite or when we read about the 9 offenses, 10 offenses to the holy name, the 9th offense is like that, or 8th offense is like that. Correct? We should not consider the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra one of the auspicious ritualistic activities mentioned in the Karmakanda portions of the Vedas. Yes, this is a part of Vedas. Karmakanda section is a part of Vedas. So surely, many has a taste for following that particular section of Vedas. What is their goal? Surely, by the performance of sacrifices and satisfying demigods, they want to get material benefit. Ultimately, they want to go to the higher planetary systems. So many people have natural taste for that. So in the episode of Srimad Bhagavatam itself, we have many examples in this manner, in this record, in this connection. In the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, we know the famous pastime of Krishna. Krishna's pastimes are done in 2-3 phases, correct? First, Krishna did his pastimes in Vrajabhumi. Then in the second level, in the second section of his pastimes, he ended inside Madura. So in that particular section, this particular pastime is discussed. Krishna giving mercy to the wives of the Brahmanas of greater city Madura. The Brahmanas of Madura, they were typical Sumartha Brahmanas. They started performing big sacrifice for the elevation to, with the goal of promoting themselves to the higher planetary systems. The Supreme Lord was there personally. He was just living in the nearby village, correct? Nandagram, Govardhan, Vrindavan, etc. Somehow or other, the wives of Krishna were the wives of that Brahmanas were so fortunate. They got the information about bhakti by association. By whom association? By whose association? Just by associating with the simple village woman, or we see in the local roads sometimes. We have big markets, big shopping malls. But sometimes we see people selling some smaller things in the roads of Bangalore, correct? Coconut sellers are there. They are known as vendors, correct? They sell coconuts. Sometimes they sell some agarbattis, etc. So in the same way, from Rajabhumi, time to time, simple village women, they used to come to Madras city for selling some small things like coconut or some curd, whatever may be the thing. In their association, these wives of Brahmanas, they received the Bhaktilada beach. So they were great devotees of the Lord. So within a family, we have two divisions. Greater Brahmanas, well-educated Brahmanas, they have studied all the 4 Vedas, Chadurvedi Brahmanas. In India, we know by the name. What is the way? Chadurvedi Brahmana, Ekavedi Brahmana, Trivedi Brahmana, Dvivedi Brahmana. It does not refer to Indian film actress. Nowadays, it is like that. Yes, they are shameless. They come to cinema field. At least they can change their name. Why they insult their own Vedic culture? Trivedi Brahmana means not an ordinary thing. He has studied 3 Vedas. It's not an easy thing to memorize all the 3 Vedas. Chadurvedi Brahmana is an exalted position, studying all the 4 Vedas. Correct? So, these 4 Vedas they have studied, but amazingly, that's what Prabhupada brings here. Maya cheats everybody. That's the duty of Maya on behalf of Krishna. That's her service. Her service is to cheat conditioned soul. When we say cheating, what is primary cheating? The primary activity done by Maya is that it makes ourselves to misunderstand our self identity. It makes ourselves to misunderstand the nature of that ultimate Brahman. This human form of life is meant for understanding just 2 things. When we say Adadav Brahma Jigjaso, we can understand in 2 ways. Brahmaha, the Sabdaha Brahman, it may refers to ultimate Brahman also. Brahman refers to Jiva also. That's a definition given by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Correct? In the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it's a surprising answer. When Arjuna asked, Kim dat Brahma Kim Adhyatmam, Krishna didn't say Brahma means Supreme Lord. He says Jiva is Brahman. So we got 2 Brahmans, Jiva Brahman and Para Brahman. So this human form of life is meant for understanding these two identities. In fact, understanding of the Jiva Brahman and understanding of the Para Brahman goes together. Correct? As we realize ourselves more and more as a servant of Krishna, or otherwise, in other words, as we realize ourselves more and more, Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Naturally, we realize ourselves more and more as a humble servant of Krishna also. These two things go together. In fact, that is a line from one of the books of Prabhupada, Science of Self-Realization. The realization of God and realization of individual jiva goes simultaneously. This process progresses simultaneously. But amazingly, Maya works in higher circles also. They are well qualified Brahmanas, Chaturvedi Brahmanas and Trivedi Brahmanas. But so naturally they know, they have knowledge. It's not that they are ordinary classes of people. They know what is four regulative principle, what is dharma, what is adharma. In fact, they had been following dharma. They know Sanskrit grammar. They were very expert in the recitation of the Vedas, expert pakka in everything. But at the same time, Mayaya abhrada, the word Sanskrit word abhrada means stealing. Maya steals their intelligence also. How it steals his intelligence, their intelligence? They studied Vedas, but somehow or other, by the influence of the Maya, they, they were unable to understand. They are unable to understand the goal of Vedas, purpose of Vedas. So this is the subject matter of this particular sloka. One should study Vedas also, but one should study with real understanding also, in a in a manner also. What is that method? So if you study 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there you will hear about another kind of Guru disciplic succession also. Vedic Guru disciplic succession. So Vedas, the knowledge of Vedas was given by Krishna in the heart of Brahma. Then later on, Vyasadeva divided Vedas. Then Vyasadeva gave the responsibility of communicating the Vedic knowledge from one generation to another generation in the hands of many great rishis. Correct? The 12th kind of Bhagavatam you will see. You will come across this kind of description. So he gave Rig Veda in the hands of Paila Rishi. Then he gave Atharva Veda in the hand of one Rishi. Then he gave the in charge of teaching Puranas from one generation to another generation in the hands of Romaharshana. Correct? The father of Sudha Goswami. So in that way, we see the continuation, we see the continuity of the Guru disciplic succession from that time of Vyasadeva still today also in India. In India, if you go to holy places like Sri Rangam, Jagannath Puri, or Sringeri, still you can see many kind of Veda Padasalas in that manner. Rig Veda Padasala, then Yajurveda Padasala. These were different, correct? Then Brigrusi Padasala, this Padasala, that, this and everything. So this legacy continues till today. But at the same time, we need another legacy also. Why? Because in this lineage, or in this legacy, or in this school of thought, the Vedic knowledge is communicated from generation to generation, but not in a proper manner, not without understanding the ultimate goal of Veda. That's a problem. Understood? So we have to study, surely, study of Vedas is an excellent activity. But study of Vedas has to be done in connection with proper understanding of Sambandha Tattva, Abhideya Tattva, and Prayojana Tattva. So what do you mean by this four disciplic succession? In this four disciplic succession also, we transmit the knowledge of Vedas from one generation to another generation, but in a proper manner. Here, not only we teach Vedas, we teach about the final goal of Vedas also. We give a clear perspective. The study of Vedas should take a jiva to the level of understanding his relationship with the Supreme Lord. He should try to understand about the Sambandha Tattva, Abhideya Tattva and Prayojana Tattva. In that manner, he should make the study of Vedas. So that understanding is given in the four Vaishnava Sampradayas. That is the reason this is known as Sampradaya. In Sanskrit, Samyak means perfect. Pradayade means giving. So in these four schools of thought, the Vedic knowledge is given to the masses of people in the proper manner, in a complete manner. That is the reason this is known as Vedic Sampradaya. Now you can understand, but understand the difference between the one kind of Guru disciplic succession and this four bona fide system of Vaishnava Sampradayas. So here, then, Prabhupada writes very clearly that is the reason. If you want to ultimately understand about the goal of life, one should approach the devotees of these four bona fide Vaishnava Sampradayas. If you go there, surely you will study Vedas, but finally you will never come to the point of understanding devotional service unto the lotus feet of Krishna is the goal of Vedas. You will never come to that particular understanding. That is also needed. Otherwise, go on studying, go on studying, go on studying. Then finally, the scholar himself is bewildered. What I am doing here? Why I am doing? What is the goal of this particular Vedic study? Okay, give up this thing. Go to Maya. That we see here. After studying all the Vedas, again they go to America. Then they got appointed in big companies. It happens because they have not understood. We have a mission, we have a goal. That is why we study Vedas. Okay, then Prabhupada writes here in a practical way. That is the reason this ISKCON movement is so much important. Here, we not only teach these two important literatures of Vedic culture, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, then we train the people in the ultimate goal of Vedic literatures also. Vedaitya sarvair aham eva vedyade. By studying Vedas, one should understand about myself. One should take up the process of pure devotion. So here in ISKCON also, it's not that we don't, people may criticize, you people are not studying Vedas. In fact, we are studying the Vedas, two important Vedas. The important section of Vedas are known as Upanishads. We have 108 Upanishads. But what is the essence of all the Upanishads? Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all the Upanishads. So we study Bhagavad Gita. Then we study Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of all the Vedas. In fact, Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled by Vyasadeva after he had completed writing all other Vedic literatures. So, Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of all the Vedic literatures. So, naturally, we Vaishnavas, we study Srimad Bhagavatam with great attention. Then, based on the understandings of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, we always engage ourselves in the service of Krishna. That is the ultimate goal of study of Vedic literatures. Okay. So when you take up the process of bhakti, when you come to the point of surrendering unto Krishna, Krishna himself says, Sarvadharman Paratyaja, you can give up all other dharma and you can just execute the process of Ananya Bhakti. What do you mean by Ananya Bhakti? In the process of Ananya Bhakti, we have 9 divisions, correct? Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam. That's true. When you come to the stage of performance of bhakti, then practically speaking, theologically speaking, there is no need of performing any other activity of Vedic culture at all. Correct? Devarsir Bhudapt Nirnam Putranam Nakingaro Nayarmi Nasarajan. We are no more indebted to Devadas, Brahmanas, anything else. But at the same time, now you make a U-turn actually. So in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam, it is said that in the section of Uddhava Gita, Krishna says that as long as you have not reached the stage of pure devotion, you have to follow certain kind of ritualistic activities also, at least in the case of Grahasthas. So in the level of bhakti, in the path of bhakti, primarily we have two divisions of bhakti, two sections of bhakti, sadhana bhakti and sadhya bhakti. Sadhana bhakti is a stage of practice. Rupa Goswami says. Sadhya bhakti is the stage of perfection. So in the stage of Sadhya bhakti, the devotees have reached the perfected stage of raga, purva raga, or bhava and prema. So that level of pure devotees are known as Paramahamsas. So for them, there is no need to follow any kind of Vedic rules and observing any rules and regulations of any Vedic culture at all. That is the reason they are known as Nigrandaha. This word appears in the famous sloka of Bhagavatam. What sloka? Atmaramachamunayo nirgranda vivurukrame. They are Atmaramas. So there is there is no need for them to get connected with even Vedic literatures. But in our case, try to understand, surely we are in the process of, in the path of pure devotion, but at the same time, the process is so pure, we have not reached the perfected stage. That is the reason now the need arises. We have to also follow certain rules and regulations of Sumarta Vidhi. That is the reason, taking into consideration all these points, our Acharya Sanatana Goswami Prabhupada, he compiled Haribhakti Vilasa. You see, one side there is no need for of following Sumartha rules theologically because they don't have any ideal goal. Just to go on following rules without any proper understanding. On the other hand, we know the goal. Just by chanting Hare Krishna, we can become happy. What's the need of doing all other things? Just study Bhagavatam. Just enjoy like anything. Dance in Kirtan. Take prasadam. In fact, the rule of bhakti itself says like that. Just by chanting, just by dancing, just by taking prasadam, you can go to Vaikuntha. What's the need of undergoing all the other difficulties? That's a fact. But at the same time, we have not reached the perfected stage. That is the reason our Acharya, Sanatana Goswami Prabhupada, has given this great Grantha known as Haribhakti Vilasa. So in Haribhakti Vilasa, he has given the recommendations of following the rules and regulations of Sumriti, but in connection with Vaishnava principles. That is the reason in ISKCON, we don't follow Smartha rule, we follow the guidance of Haribhakti Vilasa. Finally, I will give some practical examples also. Srila Prabhupada opened his Krishna Balaram Mandir, I think Ramanavami Day in 1975 or 76, like that. 75, thank you. So that pastimes are beautifully explained by Harisauri Prabhu in his Transcendental Diary book. Many things we can learn from that particular book. How Prabhupada interacted in different situations, interacted with different people in a practical way. So the function is happening in the holy land of Vrindavan, naturally populated by so many Brahmanas, so many Vaishnavas, etc., etc. So Prabhupada, for the opening of our temple, he called all the big Brahmanas of Madhura Mandal and asked them to perform big sacrifice for the installation of Krishna Balaram deities, Radha Syamasundar deities, and Gaurnitai deities. So big sacrifice was being performed. Then Prabhupada called all our devotees in his room and he told that perform as much as kirtan. Krishna is not, Krishna Balaram comes here not because of this sacrifice, because of our Sankirtan, because of our devotional activity. Actually, that itself is enough. That is our principle. But at the same time, if you don't perform, if it does not perform, if you do not perform this kind of sacrifices, the so-called Brahmanical classes of Indian people, Indian community, will not accept ourselves as a section of Vedic culture at all. They will think these people annapat hai. Oh, kuch nahi hai. They don't know anything. They are not educated. They are not Vedic scholars. In that way, they will think. That is the reason I have arranged for all these kind of sacrifices. But in fact, in Kali Yuga, Krishna comes by being pleased with Sankirtana, not by not by the performance of sacrifice. In fact, the sacrificial method explained, propagated, or recommended for Kali Yuga is Nama Sankirtanam. But from their perspective, surely it may seem strange also, because generation after generation, they are performing big sacrifices by chanting Vedas, by collecting all the ingredients, and these people are just having kartal in their hand. They say, this is sacrifice. What is this sacrifice? Correct? Surely, it will look very strange. They say they are also doing sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice they are doing? Of course, if you study Tattva Sundarapa, Jiva Goswami beautifully, he explains that idea. He brings one sloka from the Rukmini Vada, Rukmi Vada section of Bhagavatam, and he quotes that particular sloka. There he proves that Nama Sankirtana is also sacrifice. Eh? So if you study the first section of Tattva Sundarapa, you can read that particular sloka also. Externally, it appears to be a simple kind of sacrifice, a simple kind of process, but it is a sacrifice. That is Vedic sacrifice. So ISKCON had been doing that. So naturally, we have to balance also. So theoretically, we should understand this is the ultimate thing, that what we do is the ultimate thing. But at the same time, we have to also follow certain amount, especially Gragasa devotees, they have to follow certain level of rules and regulations of Sumartha literature, these Vedic sacrifices, but under the guidance of our Acharya, Sanatan Goswami Prabhupada. Okay. So then finally, naturally, Prabhupada writes that uh, only ISKCON movement is preaching about the essence. Surely, so-called Brahmanas, they are confused. They are just entangled in the activities of performance of sacrifice. And Prabhupada goes on writing the so-called societies of Hindu society, Muslim society, Christian society also. Externally, they follow the rules and regulations of some religion, but nobody is interested in the ultimate aim of satisfying the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada writes that. So naturally, the only shelter for the people of Kali Yuga is to take shelter of this great movement, ISKCON movement, and nothing else. That's a fact also. Okay. I stop here because I have some other class from 9:45. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Any questions, Prabhu? Anybody has
Hare
any
Krishna.
question?
Anybody has any questions?
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Bhaji. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. Bhaji, this translation Prabhupada is written. I was reading the last line. If somebody reads just the translation, it says, if they were aware of it, why did they not explain it to me? So it becomes.
Thank you, Prabhu. I wanted to explain that point. No, it's good. So why they didn't explain the same idea again got explained in the section of Praglad episode in the seventh kind of Bhagavatam also. So Praglad started teaching to his schoolmates about the glories of path of pure devotion. Then they were his friends. Praglad explained in a beautiful way. They understood about the glories of pure devotion, his own friends. But later on, they didn't ask, but their mood was like that. Their mood was like this. They had been thinking, yeah, we had been trained by Sanda and Amarka in Gurukul only. They are Vedic scholars, not ordinary people. But they never spoke about the glories of pure devotion. They spoke only about the glories of all other sections of Vedas. So anticipating that kind of questions from his own friends, then Prahlad started explaining the same idea. Yes, this is also part of Vedic literature, and surely they are also great Vedic scholars, but its own level. Aham manyade, but I think they are stuck up in certain point. They are Kula Gurus. They are great people, respected people. We have to give respect to them. But at the same time, as it said here, Maya Apakrita because of Maya, they got stuck up in certain point. They have to come to the next stage also. So that's a problem of Sanda and Amarka in Bhagavatam. Then again in the episode of Bali Maharaj, correct? The same thing happened. Really, he is a guru. Sukracharya was a guru, respected person. But somehow or other, he didn't want to reveal that secret of bhakti. So that is a problem of modern Brahmanical class of Indian community. Really, they are very good Vedic scholars. We have big Vedic scholars outside of ISKCON, still in India. They know Sanskrit, they know many things, but somehow or other, they don't have interest in taking up the process of bhakti at all. So they got stuck up there. So that is that surprise is explained here. Why did the same like Prahlad expressed, the friends of Prahlad, they expressed the same surprise. Sanda and Amarka, they were also great scholars. Why they never explained these ideas to me? Oh, my dear Prahlad. Then again they asked another question also. Prahlad, you also got educated under them only. But from where you got this idea? Correct? Then he, as we discussed, he said, another kind of guru. A guru came in real disciplic succession. From Narada Muni, I got this idea. So naturally, we got two kind of guru disciplic succession. That is also bona fide. We have to give respect. Bhrigu, in India, people say, I am Bhrigu Brahmana, I am this Brahmana, that Brahmana. Yes, we give respect to it. But they cannot come to the conclusion. That's the whole problem. In the words of Thirumalai Alvar, in Tamil in Prabandham, there is a beautiful Prabandham. சாக்கியம் கற்றோம் சமணம் கற்றோம் வேத நூல்களை ஆராய்ந்தோம் பாக்கியத்தால் செங்கல் கரியானை கை கண்டோம். So this Alvar, he says that I also studied Sangya, I also went for that kind of Gurukul, this kind of Gurukul, but I was not able to understand the conclusion. And finally, on that point, by my fortune, I have reached the stage of pure devotion. Prabhupada brings that idea also. But this fortune comes, Prabhupada writes in the last line actually, unless there is you come in the association of a Paramahamsa devotee, you cannot come to that particular understanding. Prabhupada writes that in the last line, correct? He writes that some idea. That's a problem. Bali had the association of Sugracharya. He is a great Vedic scholar, no doubt. But he was not a devotee Vedic scholar. That's a problem. That's the reason that conclusion was not. So we are fortunate. We all are fortunate because we have the presence of our Acharya name itself is Bhakti Vedanta Swami. He's not only a scholar, great Vedic scholar, he was a Paramahamsa devotee also. So that's our fortune. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
In the class, you mentioned about 5 sacrifices which grahasthas have to do.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
If you can name them and whether if we are practicing kind of devotional service which we are doing, whether it's mandatory for grahasthas to, like you told, other sacrifices to some extent till we become pure devotional devotees, we have to follow some rituals you told. So
Thanks for hearing at least very carefully. What are the 5 kind of sacrifices? I remember a little bit. I think one sacrifice is done because in our day-to-day activities, we kill many insects and everything, Mataji. When we grind, we kill. When we clean the floor, we kill. So one kind of sacrifice is done for that. Sorry, I forgot all other. I will give the name for other 4. But in for a Brahmana, now I have been studying in Madras Sanskrit College, MA Sanskrit. So my principal is a Brahmana, South Indian Brahmana. He was explaining to me these ideas. For a Brahmana in olden days, this fire is so important because it's a mandatory rule, just like Sumriti rule. They have to perform sacrifices. So he was telling me that nowadays when we go from one place to another place, for example, you travel from Bangalore to Chennai, whether you take some other things or not, surely you will take your handphone, smartphone in your hand. It's the most important thing in the age of Kali. Correct? So we take our cell phone in our hand because you can do anything with your cell phone. You can transfer money, you can fly, whatever may think. The same way, in olden days, when Brahmanas, they used to go from one place to another place, they used to carry that same fire also with them. Yeah, that is their sacrificial fire. There are 3 kinds of fires are there. That fire that we ignite in our kitchen is not sacrificial fire. It's a different kind of Agni. So they will carry that fire also with themselves. So it indicates how much importance is given for the Grahasthas in the performance of sacrifice. It means they will take the fire there also. Again, they will perform sacrifices like that. But this is age of Kali. So naturally, Nama Sankirtana. But at the same time, Thank you. By reading this Hari Bhakti Vilasa, we should understand, we should do these different kinds of ritualistic performances like Namakarna and then cutting the biblical card of baby, then Namakarna, then head saving, then Ubanayana, like that, that ideas are explained there. I think now in Mayapur, they train our devotees. Because ISKCON, we need all kind of brahmanas. So we train certain kind of brahmanas in the performance of this kind of ritualistic functions also in connection with Vaishnava Vidhi. So that training is going on. So we have to bring that brahmanas, our ISKCON brahmanas, and we have to do that kind of functions also. Namakarna, then when our girl is going to get married, we have to perform certain thing. Then if somebody died in our home, we have to do in certain way like that. Of course, here everything ends with Nama Sankirtana, but surely certain performance of certain style of at least minimum performances are there. It should be there. It should be there. Yes, Mataji. Thanks, Mataji.
You're telling when you're unless you're a pure devotee, you are supposed to do ritualistic performances.
Yes, yes.
But if you do ritualistic performances, you will get some this one fruitive results.
Yes, yes, yes. That's the problem here. Yeah.
That is one thing.
Yeah.
So that question I have.
Yeah.
Another thing is when you read books, different people have different understanding. Why is that? Means how do you go deeper into the book? Because as such, no, when you're listening to lectures and all, you need self-realized persons. Unless you hear from them, you will not get self-realization. Now you don't get Prabhupada kind of person. So when you go into his books, how do you go and get deeper understanding? That is my question.
Two different questions actually. The first thing is not my opinion. That's a sloka quoted in Uddhava Gita, Mataji. That sloka, now I had been teaching the seventh kind of Bhagavatam to one Bhakti Vaibhav student group actually in Mayapur Institute. So there the same idea comes actually. Because Prahlad got trained under Sanda and Amarga first. But at the same time, he got trained by Narada Muni also. So in that section, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes this particular sloka, okay, from the 11th Kandava Bhagavatam. So Yavat, it begins with that. I forget that sloka. So as long as you have not reached the stage of that level of pure devotion, certain amount of Sumriti rules has to be followed. So your question is clear. Correct. You are correct. That's a problem here in Bergisman problem also. When you do fruity activities, somehow or other, it will end up in another kind of problem also. Correct? That is the reason we follow Sumriti rules as per the guidance of Sanatana Goswami Prabhupada. We are recommended to follow in that manner, not in this manner. As we said, if you do in this manner, surely you will end up with some problem. Correct? Because fruitive activity, this is the nature of the fruitive activity, it will produce another result also. Then again you get entangled. Then that activity you try to communicate, counteract with another fruitive activity. Then again you get entangled. Like that, the problem comes. That's a point explained in the episode of Ajamila story also. Prayachitam. Prayachitam is a kind of fruitive activity. Then again, another question you asked, Mataji, different devotees have different levels of realization. Sure. Realization ultimate, we can study scripture. We can study, everybody can read. But realization comes from Krishna, not from our mind. Correct? It's not our own effort. Ishadeva para bhaktir yada deve tada guru. Dashyaka kadiha hirta prahasande mahatmanaka. Krishna enlighten ourselves in the heart. Correct? So surely Krishna will reciprocate depending upon our level of devotion. Yekadamam prapatyante tam sadeva bhajamyaham. Correct? As we said, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada was, we all know that in ISKCON, it's an axiomatic principle. Prabhupada is always in direct touch with Krishna. So personally, he was enlightened by Krishna. Okay. So at the same time, we are in the one of the important limb of bhakti. That's the main anga or main activity of bhakti is that Sravanam and Kirtanam. Correct? We all has to read Prabhupada books. We all has to study Prabhupada books. then we all has to preach up to the level of our realization. Surely we all have limited level of realization. As we said, surely different devotees have different level of spiritual advancement. So naturally, their realizations differ from person to person. That's one thing. Again, taste also differs, correct? Different devotees have different taste. Some devotees have taste only for Prabhupada books. Some devotees have taste for the books written by other acharyas also, Gaudiya Sampradaya acharyas. Some devotees even they have taste for reading other Sampradaya books also, Madhva Sampradaya books, Sri Sampradaya books also. So naturally, realization differs to some extent. Anyway, ultimately we all are individual. So naturally, realization differs from person to person. So diversity should be there, but some common uh, uniqueness should be there. That's the beauty of ISKCON, correct? The basic things should not differ. For example, if some devotee is speaking, Shiva is God, then you have to understand it is a deviation, correct? But some devotee may say, there is no need of giving respect to Shiva at all. That's a mood. That's a mood of Sri Vaishnavas, correct? Sri Vaishnavas, if they say, they will say that if you see a devotee of Shiva, then take bath. That's little. That is little extreme, correct? That's the mood of Sri Vaishnavas. But Mahaprabhu did like that. Sriman Mahaprabhu visited all the Shiva temples in South India, in his tour in South India. Practically, he went to all the Shiva temples because we give respect to Shiva's great Vaishnava. So that small mood difference is there. So ultimately, every Vaishnava is a different person. So that difference is there. But basically, uh, we all have different levels of devotion. So naturally, Krishna reveals, gives different kinds, of, different levels of realization. No doubt in that. No doubt in that. So side by side, it's not that just studies. Surely we have to purify ourselves more and more. We have to become humble more and more. We have to perform service to ISKCON and devotees more and more. Then we will get enlightened more and more. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, many of us are hearing from His Grace Akinchana Krishna Prabhu for the first time. So, Prabhuji is from Tamil Nadu, and he and Chandila Rishi Prabhu were classmates in the childhood classmates, and they came to Krishna consciousness, and then Prabhuji joined in Srirangam temple, and eventually he went to Vrindavan for some time. He was in Vrindavan temple for some time serving, and then he got initiated by his own as Bhaktivikas Swami Maharaj, and later Prabhuji was serving in Vallavidhyanagar in the youth preaching for some time, and then currently Prabhuji is in Mayapur Institute of Higher Education, MIHE, teaching the Bhakti Vaibhav and other courses. So we are very fortunate to have Prabhuji's association today. Let us express our gratitude by chanting Hare Krishna mantra once. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Thank you very much. As their lordships are nicely decorated with the flower dress, there are more than 400 kgs of flowers which are waiting for the devotees to come and get their touch. So we need more and more devotees to uh, plug the flower petals. Maybe in another sometime we are making the arrangement. All the flowers are there on the top. All the devotees can come and you can inspire your relatives, neighbors, everyone, because this is a wonderful opportunity where pujaris can go and do the abhishek. And in the other festivals of abhishek, there is nothing that everybody can do. Somebody may get the milk or somebody may get the curd, but that is also quantity is less, and but just they can bring it and give it. They cannot do anything much. And even to make the juice also they say, okay, one has to be initiated and all those things, many rules come. But for this festival, there is not much rules, and whoever removes the petals, each and every flower petal is going to be offered to the Lord. So that way it is a personally doing the abhishek, and the flower which you have removed the petals, that will be going on their lordship's body. So that wonderful opportunity is there today. So devotees can take advantage of that. The flower plucking service will be happening in the Bhagavatam hall on the top. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. We'll start the flower packing seva from around 10:30 with the flowers are there, and we are making the arrangements. If any of you are interested to go now only, then you can go and we'll make it happen, start it, and you can put the photos or the this is the age of selfie or the this one, what do you call